It's kind of an annoying glare from the backbook. What are you doing? All right, so let's go ahead and just grade it. This is what your line should look like. Number 3 is negative 30 and 450. 4 is B. 6 is C. 9, yeah.
6, the constant is good.
I'm sorry, I meant to say
Okay.
8 is C. And then, sorry, this is supposed to have a line through it like this. And then the y-intercept is 4, and this is 5/2, or 2.5, or 2.5. Yes.
Why is it in the middle of the
Why does it look like this?
No, the, what do you call it, the line above 2. Yeah, why is it?
Because it's, the y-intercept is
Oh.
2.5.
Okay.
It's 5/2, which is the same thing as 2.5.
Thank you.
Yeah, so they made the grid really small. You can make it bigger digitally. Okay, number 10, it should be 8x plus 12y equals 120. Number 12, your line should look like this. It should go through 2 on the y-axis, 4 on the x-axis, and the slope of negative 1/2. Number 13 is negative 8 and 3 is what should be filled in. And now I will take questions. Yes, Bella?
For 10, how do you get 120 from?
So 120 is the constraint. That's what they need to buy. 120 is just the total.
Okay. So would you multiply it?
So the great news about this question is all you're doing is taking the information and placing it where it belongs. You don't have to solve it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it says 8 packs of juice, X, and 12 packs of water, Y. So 8 goes with X, 12 goes with Y. 8 is how many, the number, 8 is how many 8 packs of juice. You know how like juice comes in like an 8-pack, so it's like how many of those are you buying? That's what X represents, yeah.
That's all you'll have to do on the test. Just
That's all you'll have to do for
number.
number 10. Number 11 requires you to solve it a little bit, but it's extremely confusing the way it's worded, so I took it off. So number 10 is on there. Number 11 is not. I replaced it with the easy questions that's on the digital thing. Okay, next question. We can. I want to go over these first because these are the hardest questions on the test. When we're done going over the hardest questions on the test, we'll definitely go to the digital ones.
Can we flip to the front page?
Yeah, you can just.
There was, I don't remember which one exactly, there was one that I was having a lot of trouble with.
Was it the elevator
I
one?
think so.
Okay. So, first let's read the question. An elevator rises steadily. Steadily rises. That sounds like a slope. What kind of slope? Positive. If something rises steadily, meaning like at the same rate, like 2 over, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, or up 3 over 5, up 3 over 5. Like if it's rising, it's right and steadily, that's a positive slope up the skyscraper. After 4 seconds, it is 33 meters above the ground. 2 seconds later, which would be what, how many seconds?
6.
6 seconds, good. Don't get confused by this and think it's supposed to be 2, right? 2 seconds later, which means at 6 seconds, it's 47 meters above the ground. So they just gave you 2 coordinate pairs. 2 coordinate pairs, 433 and 647. It says, I'll go over this in more detail in a second, it's in my notes. Which equation models its height, y, with respect to time, x? So right here, it's saying that your x coordinate is the time, and your y coordinate is the height. Right? So let's take a look at what this would look like. So it's giving you two coordinate pairs. X represents the seconds or time, and Y is the meters or height. The first pair that they give you is 4, 33. 4 is your X, 33 is your Y. The second pair is 6, 47. Why is it 6 and not 2, J Nice? What's that? I can't hear you. Yeah, because they added 2 seconds to the 4. Good, very good. Just want to make sure you're paying attention. Because, and it's also written right there, because we had to add 2 seconds to the 4 to get 6 seconds. Now, we're going to find the slope, because it is rising steadily, right? We're going to use our slope formula to find the slope, because all of our answer choices are in what form?
Standard point slope form.
Point slope form, right? And that'll be on my little sticky notes during the test. It's also on your EOC reference. It doesn't say on your EOC reference sheet, it doesn't say this represents point slope form. You guys should know that this is point slope form at this time, okay? So with point slope form, what are the two most important things that the equation has? Yes?
It's Y and it's X.
Hold on. It's a simpler question than that. Point slope form needs two very specific things.
Your point and your slope.
Yeah, your point and your slope, right? So first, we find our slope by doing the change in Y over the change in X, also known as the second point's Y minus the first point's Y over the second point's X minus the first point's X. And I know you guys are probably not going to do this, but I organized my information extremely detailed. I even wrote the points again, and I called this one point 1, and I called this one point 2. I even labeled each part of the point, x1, y1, x2, x2, just so that when I plugged it in, I didn't make any silly mistakes. Because wouldn't that be so sad if you know how to do the problem, but you make a silly mistake and you get the wrong answer? Okay, so then I have 47 minus 33 is 14. 6 minus 4 is 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So my slope is 7. Look at our answer choices. Which two answer choices can we immediately say are not correct? Yes, Bella?
B and C.
Why?
Because for B, they're not using 47.
Oh, B and A.
So
B and A.
let me pause for a second. We haven't talked about which point we're using for this point.
Oh.
All we talked about is slope. When we found slope, we found that it is positive 7. Bella, because it's positive 7, which ones can we eliminate? Meaning, out of these 4 answers, which two are not correct?
I meant A and B.
A and B are not correct because they both have negative 7 as the slope. And that doesn't make any sense for the equation either. It says it steadily rises up, even if you don't even find your slope. It's okay, just check to make sure it's still on the board. Even if you don't actually do the math to find your slope, you can immediately eliminate A and B as your answers. But then, now all we have is C and D left to choose from. Which point out of the two did both C and D choose? Yeah.
When you say point, what do you mean?
They give us two coordinate points,
Oh.
433 and 647. They don't give it to you like this. Here are two coordinate points, but because they give you the information that at 4 seconds it's 33 meters and at 6 seconds it's 47 meters, and then it says that they're represented by X and Y, we can write them as coordinate pairs.
Okay.
They have a relationship, like when this amount of time passes along your X, it goes up. When this amount of time passes, it goes up again. So there's a relationship there and it can be graphed. That's why we can write them as coordinate pairs, coordinates on a graph. Yeah? Yeah. And don't anybody else ask me to use the bathroom after that, okay? Only if it's an emergency. Okay, so now that we have our slope, which is 7, Bella, tell me which point. Did they choose point 1 or point 2 to be represented in point slope form?
Chose point 1.
Yes, they chose point 1. If they chose point 1, we're gonna choose 0.1 so that we can match our answer to theirs. Because we know that when point slope form, you can choose any specific point, right? There are 2 points to choose from, but let's match it up to one of those answer choices, right? Yeah.
Would it be like correct if it wasn't in -7?
That's possible. Actually, no. Wait. 47. No, actually, because the funny thing is they actually used 2 here, and it's supposed to be 6.
Thank you.
Okay, good question though. All right, if they had a 6 there, then it actually would be, if they had a 6 there and a positive 7, it would be correct. Okay, so they chose 0.1, so we're gonna use 433 in our point slope form. We're gonna substitute our x and our y values for the x and our y values in the coordinate point for the x1 and the y1. We luck out here because they're both positive, so we don't have to worry about killing any cockroaches and changing any signs, right? So we can just plug them in. Our y goes here, our x goes here, and we have our positive slope. Do we have to solve it or put it into slope-intercept form? No, because our answer choices are in point slope form, so we just have to match it. And that's it. If that went a little too fast, just know that this is being filmed so you can watch it later as your own video. Okay, next question. Are you taking notes or anything? Angeli, did I ask you about your?
Well, I did it.
Yeah, that's just so weird. How did I not? Hold up. Is there anybody else that I didn't ask? Thought they got by? Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, I just didn't scroll down on my. So you did it, right? Okay. Okay. Back to this. All right, next question. Yes.
I had a question on, it was 9.
Number 9. Okay, so for number 9, it says, what are the x and y intercepts of the graph 5x plus 8y equals 20? Then it wants you to graph the equation. So I have to apologize because on my notes on this one, I had to cross this out because it's a long story, but since I was working with the answer key, I thought that they were actually giving you the line and then just asking you for the x and y intercept. So I wrote something like, you can just see that it's because it's clean cut through the x-axis, but then I realized, oh wait, you guys don't actually have the line graphed, you have to do that. So skip this part and we're gonna actually find them. And I do find them in my notes. The intercept is where the line crosses the axis, right? So if we're looking for the x-axis, we're trying to find where it crosses the x. I'm sorry, if we're looking for the x-intercept, we're looking for where it crosses the x. Good. If we're looking for the y-intercept, what axis are we looking for the crossing, Riley? You didn't hear my question? Okay. I definitely need you to be listening, okay? Because it's really, really important. Are you getting any of these notes down? No? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, no? Do you feel like you should be taking notes or do you feel like you shouldn't be? You don't know? Okay.
What?
All right, so we are going to continue. So, as I was saying, to know where your y-intercept is, that's going to be the one that crosses the y-axis. Now, when we are solving for our intercepts, what do we do? When we're solving for the intercepts. Let's say you're solving for your x-intercept. What do you do? What do you plug in for y?
0.
0. Because remember, wherever it is on the y, it means that x isn't anywhere, right? It's anywhere positive or negative. If it's on the y, that means x is 0. So if we're looking for our y, we would plug in 0 for x. If we're looking for our x-intercept, we're plugging in 0 for y. In this case, we need to find both. So here I started with solving for the x intercept, okay? I took my equation, which is in standard form, and we know that standard form is usually the one where we're gonna need to find our x and y intercepts by plugging in 0 for the other variable. So to find my x-intercept, I plug in 0 for my y. Then I do 8 times 0, and hey, that's 0. 5x minus 0 is 5x, right? So 5x equals 20. Look how that, I wrote out all these steps, but really it's just like when you multiply times 0, poof, it's gone. Okay, so 5x equals 20, divide by 5 on both sides, and you get your x-intercept, which is 4. Then you go to your x-axis, and you make a point on the x-axis at 4, positive 4. That's done. Now we need to find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for the x value of the equation, right? Then you solve for y. Look, when you plug in 0, poof, it's gone. And you have 8y equals 20. Divide by 8 on both sides, and you get y equals, 20 over 8? That's a weird intercept. Well, we have to reduce it. When we reduce it, we will get 5 over 2. Now, when you type it in digitally, it's going to want it as an improper fraction. But I know that for you guys to graph that, you're probably going to want to divide 5 by 2 to get either a decimal or a mixed number so that you can know where to graph it. You are able to graph half units, okay? If you zoom in, it will allow you to graph halfway in. It doesn't do anything in between the halfways, but we do graph halfway in. Aiden, could you pay attention, please? It looks like you're doing something else that's not really on task, okay? All right, so we get our intercepts, and yes, on your digital test, you'll be able to graph, if you do actually get a halfway unit, you will be able to graph that halfway between 2 and 3 at 2.5. It automatically makes a line on your digital form. Anna, are you paying attention, hon? Are you? You are? Are you getting any of this down? Some of it. Okay, could you get all of it down? That'd be awesome. Yes?
So there's a paper copy and a digital version, or is it all on the digital version?
For your real test, it's all digital.
No, I mean for the study.
Oh, the study guide, yes, the study guide has a paper version that, because I pulled so many questions off of it, I had to make a separate one to fill in the ones that I pulled off.
How many questions are there?
15 total,
Okay, and so we have to do that and the digital one?
as for the practice test, yeah. And then your real test will be 15 digital questions. That will be these and the digital ones together, okay? Yes. Okay, next question. Any more questions on this?
Number 1.
Number 1? Okay, was that yours too?
No, can I explain it? I understand that one.
You understand number 1? Yeah, absolutely. Remember, start with your y-intercept on that. Okay. Any other questions on this? You have a question? Okay, let me just explain this real quick then, okay? So for this, when you are given slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, m is your slope, so your slope is 2. B is your y-intercept, so your y-intercept is positive 3. You graph this in 2 steps. You use your y-intercept first, which is this guy over here, and we get plus 3 on the y, boom, you got a point.
Do you know which one's which?
How do you know which one's which?
Yeah,
Did you miss all these lessons?
I think so.
Yeah.
I watched the video.
You watched the
I got
videos?
all the notes for it, but I don't know
Okay.
how to tell the
So, I have it up there. The top one, an orange. I have my little cheat sheet there, okay? The m is the slope, which is the number that's next to the x. Your b is your y-intercept. We had a whole conversation, probably you saw in the video, about why are they called these things. Nobody really knows. There's some speculation about why we would call slope m and y-intercept b when they don't have anything to do with the letters of the word. It's pretty annoying, but once you practice it a little bit, you get used to it. Then when you do your slope, you just go up 2 and over 1, because if the slope is a whole number, 2 is the same thing as 2 over 1. The 2 is your rise, the 1 is your run. So when you have your point from your y-intercept here, you go rise 2, 1, 2, and then over 1. Does that make sense? Yeah, I know you missed a lot of it, but it's okay. We'll give you time to make that up. Aiden, can you be careful? And be super careful, but okay. Any other questions on the paper version? I know this one's super hard, so I want you to ask me questions. Do you need to go somewhere? Okay. You have another question on this one?
Yeah, 3.
Okay, number 3. Remember, even if you did not complete this, you should be taking notes on this. Number 3. This one is tricky. Lourdes is reading a biography for her history class. She reads 30 pages each day. After 9 days, Lourdes has read 3/5 of the biography. A lot of information here. Write a linear equation to represent the number of pages Lourdes still has to read after X amount of days. This is definitely complicated and hard to interpret. Bella, were you able to use my notes on this one? Did it help at all?
I didn't see those.
Oh, you didn't see the notes?
I did, but I was going fast, so like just trying to scan through and see.
It's okay. This one is super hard to interpret, so let's go really slowly through this one, okay? We have that. Okay. Oops. Where did that go? Here it is. Just gonna match these up so you can see the problem and right in here. Okay. So she reads 30 pages each day. So 30 pages is how much she reads each day. That means that each day, 30 pages gets taken away from what she started with, right? When you read, it kind of like, as you read 30 pages, we kind of like go bye-bye. It's like if you eat 30 cookies, they get taken away, right? I mean, I eat 30 cookies, I mean, I might have done that once or twice in my life. But you read 30 pages, those go away. So we're gonna represent that as a negative in our equation because as she reads, it's acting like our slope. Because if she reads 30 pages every day, that's a consistent amount. Remember how we talked about the elevator rising steadily, and that was our positive slope? Well, now she's reading 30 pages, so she's kind of getting rid of them, 30 pages a day. That's our negative slope, and that's why it is in front of us here. All right. So this is the slope, because it represents the consistent decline in the book. Oh, and then I kind of brought up here, just like that coffee shop gift card that we did the other day, and she spent $2.65. Remember when we did that problem? And that was the slope, because every single time she bought coffee, she spent $2.65. It was a consistent amount that got taken away, right? That's how much she spent. So this would also be negative because she reduces the number of pages by 30 each day. So that's how we get our negative 30. I know I had a question, it was in my next class. Somebody actually emailed me and she's like, are you sure it's supposed to be negative? So anyway, I'll go over that with her. All right, now the y-intercept, which is 450. Where did that information come from? It's not in here, right? That's why this is very, very tricky. So stay with me on this one. This is probably the trickiest one on the test, okay? The y-intercept has to represent the starting value, right? Remember the coffee gift card? And we actually had to find the starting value, right? I think it ended up being $25, the coffee gift card, and that was our y-intercept, what we started with before she spent any of it. So the starting value of this book is going to be what?
Oh, I was gonna be like, on a table graph or whatever,
Yeah.
like line graphs.
Yeah.
Isn't the y-intercept always where the 0 is?
It's where x is 0.
Where X
Yes,
is 0, yeah.
exactly. And that's why when we use standard form and we're trying to find the y-intercept, we plug 0 in for x. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so since the y-intercept has to be our starting value, it really, what's the starting value of a book in terms of pages?
450.
Well, any book. Any book that you want to read, what is a starting value before you start reading it? However many pages it is. Very good. So if your book has 100 pages, 100 pages is your starting value before you begin reading, right? So it's our starting value, which can also be represented by the number of pages the book she has at the beginning, right? The number of pages that the book is. To find out the starting value, first you have to find out how many pages she read after 9 days. Now going back, it says she read 3/5 of the biography. Oh, I have another page here. Oh, I gotta find it, hold on. Here we go, the next page here. So, if it says after that she read for 9 days, right? How many pages did she read per day? 30. So, 30 times 9. 30 pages times 9 days is 270. But that's not the total pages, right? So, there's another part. Sorry, this question is really, really tricky. After 9 days, she reads 270 pages. But it says in the question, that's 3/5 of the whole book. Okay? Lots of steps to this. 3/5 of the whole book is 270 pages. When we did 30 times 9, 270 pages.
Isn't you just multiply?
Yep. I'm just setting it up as an equation, but. So, if 3/5 of the whole book, I just represented the whole book by B, equals 270, how do we find out what this value is if it's being multiplied by 3/5? It's okay. Both of you can say it at the same time. Multiply by the reciprocal, right? That's how we cancel out a fraction, right? When B is being multiplied times 3/5, we're technically dividing it by 3/5, but we also know that that's multiplying by the reciprocal. So that cancels out, and then we do the same thing to the other side. So we're multiplying 270 times 5/3, and that's what gets us 400. You can cancel here and then multiply by 5, and that's what gets us the total number of pages. All of that just to get this equation in slope-intercept form. We've got a slope of -30 and a y-intercept of 450. Okay. Any other questions on this version before we go to the digital questions? Are you sure we're good on this? Okay, and just a reminder, I have the first 5 digital questions online that I did in intensive math. So the first 5. What? Yeah, I uploaded it to YouTube yesterday. I have a very detailed explanation of all 5 of those questions. There's just 6 and 7 that I didn't get to video. So we can go over those now if you guys would like. So let me just get over to that digital situation here. I know you guys did have some questions on that, so let me just go to that real quick. Alright. So you guys should be taking out your notes from the digital portion of the practice test, okay? If you didn't have it done, you should be taking notes on this. And just a reminder, here are all your practice materials. This is the PDF of what we were just going over. This is the digital practice test with the 7 questions that I'm adding into the test for the ones that I took out. And this is the link to what I just showed you over here, which is all of my work, every single question worked out in detail, okay? And then the video for the digital practice test is on YouTube. So which ones would you guys like to go over from the digital? I prefer to start with 6 and 7 if we can, and then if you need help, you can go to, so which one do you want me to do, 6 or 7? 6? Okay, so, nice big multiple choice here, right? It says which equation, or which graph, represents the equation y equals negative 4/3 times x minus 2. Before I choose from these, I'm just going to go ahead and draw it over here. Let me just erase this first. Actually, you know what? We could choose it from the graph. Where are we going to start? When we have, what form is this? What form is this equation? Slope, intercept. So we get our slope and our, which intercept? The y-intercept. Out of those two, what is my starting point? Get it? Point. What is my starting point? Yes. No, not the slope. Because we do need our slope, but that's not going to give us our starting point. Okay,
Sorry.
That's okay. So our y-intercept is what? -2. This minus is very, very important. Let's check out our graphs here. Does A have a y-intercept of -2? Good, so that's a possibility. Does B have a y-intercept of -2? Good, so that's a possibility. Does, oh man, all of them have the y-intercept -2. So let's go back up and look at our slope. Our slope is what?
-4/3.
-4/3. So is our slope positive or negative?
Negative.
Interesting. Can we eliminate any of these based on
A,
why?
because it's positive.
Yes, the slope is positive for A, so A is not the right choice. Let's look at B and C. They're very, very similar, right? They almost look like the same line, but one slope is like a little bit steeper. So where should we start so that we can count our slope and match it up? Yes.
Shouldn't you go down 3?
What's that?
Shouldn't you go down 3/4?
So let's get some help from Gracie.
You have no room to go down, so you would go up and then left 3.
Okay,
Drive
that's a
over-
good
it
point.
drives
Remember
over.
how we've talked about how slope, if it's written as -4/3, okay, -4/3, that could be a -4/3, or it could be a +4/3, right? So she's saying, well, we don't really have room to go down. So let's see. If we were to try to go down from here and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, that's really hard to do. And the same thing down here if we try to go down. So we can look at the slope in a different way because we know that it doesn't matter if the numerator or denominator is negative as long as only one of them is negative, the whole thing is negative, right? We can't make both of them negative, that would be a positive slope. Okay, so if we choose to do this one, that means we're actually gonna go up 4, right? Up 4, and then which way are we gonna go 3?
Left.
To the left. Very good. So if we go up 4 on this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the left 3, 1, 2, 3, does that match up?
No.
Nope, let's try this one. Up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the left 3, 1, 2, 3, does it match up? So choice C. Let me just take a quick look before you guys pack up and just take a quick look at 7, see if I can do this in like record speed. Oh, okay. So what formula do we need? I know this is like really small, let's see if I can make it bigger. Okay, what formula do we need just to do this? Only one little formula. Yeah, we just need the slope formula. That's all you need. So we're given 2 points. You use your slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus 1. And if you want to be super organized, you can call this point 1 and point 2. You can do x1, y1, and x2, y2. You guys know how I like to keep everything organized like that, right? And then you just plug in your values, subtract your y's, subtract your x values, and choose. So we've got 3 minus -7, right? 3 minus -7. Uh-oh, what do we do? Kill the cockroach, change the sign. What do we get? 10. Okay, and then our x's, we have -4 minus 0. What do we get?
-4.
-4, very good. Is our slope positive or negative?
Negative.
Good, so this is wrong and this is wrong. All right, so, but they don't look like this. What do we do with our slope here? Reduce, and what do we get? Divide by what? Divide by 2, divide by 2, and we get 5/2, and that's a -5/2. So we've got our answer right here. Thank you for staying a little, not extra, but, okay, now you can leave. It's officially 1:30. Could you hit the end button on that, please?